everybody, this is Julissa. Thank you so much everybody for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who's listening right now in the podcast. Today is Sunday, June 15, 2025. Today is Father's Day, so I want to say happy Father's Day to everybody who's listening to this. Thank you so much for being here. Everybody who's listening using Spotify, don't forget to follow the podcast and rate the podcast on Spotify. It really helps me as a creator. But please don't just listen to one episode, just listen to a couple before you give it a rating. That really helps me. And that will be like more transparent, right? And also thank you so much to everybody who's watching this video on YouTube. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, right? So very quickly, guys, we know there's something going on with churches, right? God is shaking up the church family so that we can wake up and fix our ways. Okay, we all know, like, it's so crazy, we all know what we need to work on, right? Because God gives you a lot of warnings. What happened with Michael Tate last week, and now I just read something crazy. There are more people coming forward saying that they were actually molested by him years ago, right? So this is a full-blown exposure that happened to him. And let me tell you something, I guarantee you that this man was warned many times by the Lord to stop his ways, right? To repent, to confess maybe, and get away from like a leadership position, right? That's what I was saying to you guys in my previous interview, my previous podcast, excuse me. I told you guys that if you are in leadership right now and you know you're struggling with something, you should seek counsel and also perhaps take a break from that, right? But when you do something for so many years, it's kind of hard to you don't want people looking down on you, you don't want the shame. But because we are in the last days, God is shaking everybody up, right? Get right with the Lord. He's coming back. This is a real thing. This is your life, right? And God is not mocked. He's not gonna allow it for you to say one thing and do another, right? And lie to his people, right? So these are the things that are happening. And it's so interesting. What I'm going to speak to you guys about is when people do podcasts, right? Podcast has been a thing for, like, I don't know how many years ago it began, like maybe 7 years ago, and now it's just growing like crazy, right? We love to hear what people have to say, right? We love to kind of hear their perspective. We love to hear perhaps maybe celebrities and hear their stories and things like this, right? This, I guess I can call her Christian celebrity. Everybody knows who she is, right? Candace Cameron. She did a podcast recently that's causing attention into the secular media, right? Because what she said is kind of like, if you are believing in the Lord, right, you can already know stuff like this, right? And we know stuff like this, yet we continue to do it, right? I'm referring to the danger of watching scary movies and music that is secular music, right? So Candace Cameron has said that scary movies are incredible demonic. That's basically what she said. She said, right, she won't be turning into any scary movies marathons. And as the Full House alumna recently revealed, she will not allow horror movies to be watched in her home, let alone stream one herself. And the person who did the podcast with her, I do apologize, I don't have the name yet, she's asking her kind of why, right? Because when people don't grow up in the church, when people don't have this relationship with the Lord, they're gonna look at you, what do you mean you cannot watch a scary movie? You're that, they always will look at you kind of weird, like, oh yeah, that's too much Christian, right? That's too much I'm not, people will say to you something like, yeah, that's a little crazy, you're too much of into this, right? So they asking her why you're not watching a scary movie. She said, well, that's opening up a portal. She said, it actually was on her own podcast that she said this. I do apologize. So it was on June 10th. So 10 days ago, she, an episode of her self-titled podcast, She said, if you're watching this or you're playing this video game or whatever, that's a portal that could let stuff inside your house. Candace, who shared kids with Natasha 26, Lev 25, and Maskim 23 with her husband Valerie Bure, admitted that her family will roll her eyes and laugh at her for her hot take, but she's very serious about it. I don't even want somebody watching a scary movie in our house on the TV, she continued to say. To me, that's just a portal, and I do agree with her. I think, it's so crazy. It's so crazy and so like in our faces. You could be like, into your worship music, right? Like when I'm working, when I'm making a new collection, when I'm working on my day job, I like to listen to worship music, right? And because of, I guess you can say, like nostalgia or something that brings to your mind, you're like, or you hear something about an artist, right, that you like way before, right? And they're coming back, let's just say, like, I'm not saying their music, I'm not gonna say the name actually. You're like, oh, they're coming back with a new music, right? I remember listening to them back in the days, right, when you didn't have this kind of like relationship with the Lord. You're like, let me put that song again, I really like the song. And then suddenly, like, you begin to have these thoughts, right? So crazy how that operates. And you're like, why am I thinking this way, right? Why is this, like, where is this coming from, right? Have that ever happened to you? And you're like, oh my goodness. And then you're like, oh, right, I went from my worship music to this type of music. I can totally see where it went in, right? You need to understand music is so powerful. It's a repetitive thing. And you keep saying the same thing over and over again. You need to understand a lot of musicians, they go, there was a Mexican singer, right? And she said she will, the thing that they always want in their studio was like drinks, cigars and things like this, to compose this type of music that's like depressive, right? Because the story is about this guy who left her or something. Like, you're playing that over and over, and you think that's not gonna have an effect on you. It's the same thing with the scary movies, right? It's so dangerous, guys. It's so dangerous. I also check myself a lot because I do like knowing about investigative reports and things like this. I don't need to, I say to myself, you don't need to know all the details. You don't need to watch this. Sometimes, you kind of feel it in the spirit. You're like, I don't want to watch this, because when a story begins, you're watching this investigation thing, right? And you're like, it sounds so weird as it is already. I don't want to watch it, right? So things like this, I always have to be in the lookout for. Let me see what else. So she said, I don't even want someone watching a scary movie in our house. And while Candace, who is the chief creative officer for great American media company, clarified that she understands horror is not just real, she believes something evil is created through the filmmaking process. That's very true, and it's very bold of her to come out and say something like this. Because people make careers about making horror movies. That's like their thing. We have actors who will never do any other type of movie other than horror or crimes, and like they're always like the killer in the movie, things like this. And yeah, it's very real. And if you are trying to get yourself closer and closer to God, starting with the secular music, with the scary movies and things like this, that's what you need to to work on. But unfortunately, people was hear you say something like that and they'll be like, it's okay if my kids watch the scary movie, it's not gonna do anything to them. And I don't want to people, I don't want to create a bubble on them, things like that. Even though the word says we're in the world but we're not of the world, right? People get this defensive thing, right? this is why I always had a problem, you know. I always had an issue with the how secular music gets into the church community, right? And is allowed through this, you know, I've seen it. There's so many of these places that make it, and this is just my opinion. You know, they create this prom thing that they do. It's kind of like a good thing dressed into something else, right? In the secular music, it's just play all around, right? And it's just crazy, right? How do you turn around, then you go back the next day and you're like, okay, get into holiness and get into fasting and praying, when you know, you check my and see like, yeah, that's all this worldly music is allowed. Look what's happening with P. Diddy, right? Who would have thought this music that you're jamming to and this man is beating up somebody? It's making her, you know, it's making these hit songs that you are jamming to on replay mode in your car, in your home. You're making your kids dance to it, and this man turns around and goes after the studio session and beat up somebody and make her have relations with unknown men just so that he can watch it. That's, you know, that's the reality of things, right? But people, we turn the blind eye and we like, oh no, that's okay. I just like his talent. I don't really care what he does. Everything is influence. I've been posting a lot on my Instagram. I've been going to New York City a lot. I've been getting a lot of what's that called, inspiration, right? As a creator, as an artist myself, as a designer, I'm creating my collection, my next one. So I'm like, okay, it's so crazy how quickly you get inspired by something, right? And I know, like, even me doing these quick sketches, I already can see my New York visits on it. It's so crazy. I already can see how it inspires me so much. And who would have thought, right? Like, I never thought that I was gonna be influenced by that, but because I've been going a lot to New York, I already can see it on the sketches. It's so quickly that we get inspired. A child will, you know, if you play the song one time, the child, as a learning sponge that they are when they're growing up, they'll start repeating, like, and they'll remember the song, and they'll blab it out for you to play it again, right? We need to be so careful. The same thing with these movies, right? And the reason why she's making trendy, because in the Christian community, things like this, we can already know that it's creating a portal, right? For something evil to you're opening the portal to something evil to come in the house, right? So they're saying that it's making news because, you know, they're like, what is this? What's she trying to say, right? So she also said, I am in the film industry, she said, I understand how it all works. I know that movies specifically has a crew of 200 people, and they're lighting it up and adding the sound effects and makeup and camera and actors. However, there's still something that can be incredible demonic while they made it. You know, she says that I'm sorry, I don't need to read that. She said then you're speaking it into all those homes if you're watching it on TV, and those are real witchcraft words, real spells, right? But Candace isn't the only one in her household who takes the media she consumes seriously. She joked that her youngest son, Lev, who also joined on her podcast, has some boundaries that are even more strict than her. We know that if he's coming over and we're going to watch a movie, he will not watch an R-rated movie. She said there's a lot of things that they shouldn't be watching on those films. And let me see. Candace and her son may not be able to watch every movie coming out in 2025, but keep reading to see what films are coming up next year. We don't need to know that. So, yeah, the thing is that you know they want you to watch crazy stuff, right? Because you can be watching a very classic, let's just say this type of movies that are like like the Christmas, those movies that come out around Christmas time. They're like the new person in town, and they meet somebody, and it's like all sweet, lovey type of movies. And then out of nowhere, it's this crazy scene. You're like, where is this coming from? And you're like what? Let me change it quickly. Let me stop it. And it's so crazy how they get you. You think it's all clean in the beginning. It has a great rating. It's all clean, and then there it is. They put it right there for you to see. The eyes are the portal to your soul, right? You need to be so careful what you're watching. You need to be so careful what you're listening. And like I said, even like a song, there's a song that I think I heard it when I was younger, and I'm like, this song is so bad, the lyrics are horrible, right? And I'm like, I cannot even like listen to it like one time, because it's such a it catches your memory so quickly, and then you are, without knowing, you start humming to it, right? And it's so crazy, you guys. I want to say, I want to say to everybody who's listening to this, the reason why she's coming up in the news is because they're looking at her as an actress in the industry and being like, what do you mean it's a portal? She's saying something that maybe a lot of industry leaders are not ready to confess, right? But I am so glad that things like this, these are the conversations I expect to be hearing, like, Bible classes and, Bible gatherings and things like this, because these are the things that affect our soul, okay? I'm telling you guys, and I know you can probably relate to it. If you go from worship music to like secular music, you like within an hour, you're already thinking crazy stuff, right? And you're like, what is happening? Why is this coming to my mind, right? You don't know what inspired that artist, right, to come up with that song about a breakup or a divorce or whatever, right? So many things, right? That's why you have to be so careful, okay? Let me know, guys, if you agree with her, Candace, saying that these scary movies can open a portal, right? And that's why we have to be so careful about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening to the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless. This is Julissa. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.